a second. So totally fine if you're still getting your stuff set up. And then I'm going to look over here and look for us going live. I'm so excited about this conversation. Oh, look at that. I'm live now. Can I hit my own notification? Ah,
Gosh, perfect.
perfect. That totally works. I can see the comments and we're live. So let me hop back over to Zoom so I can see your face.
Perfect.
We're ready. We're going.
Hello. We're ready.
Hi. This is so cool. All right. So everyone who's tuning in with us this week on So Ask Us, welcome back. This is very exciting. I know I say that every week, but I'm very excited every single week. But I'm especially psyched today because we're talking to Jared Osterman, who's the Director of Leasing for Amherst Innovative Living. And I'm psyched to talk to you today, Jared, as we were just before we hopped on chatting about all the things that are feeling big and different and new within the student community, which had sort of been not on autopilot, but certainly a nice humming machine just going along doing its thing for so long.
Absolutely.
And now, which we'll talk about in a minute, because I'm going to start with you and who you are and how you got to be where you are.
Yeah.
But now your job has really shifted. So before we get into all that, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. And if you could just tell us what you do and how you came to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jared, and I'm the Director of Leasing here at Amherst Innovative, as Hannah has said. So I started in leasing when I was about 19. Been doing it for about 5 years now, and it's definitely the industry that I'm supposed to be in.
Nice. Nice
And
to find a calling.
Oh, absolutely. I'm very much a people person. So this is kind of a people industry because everything we do is with people. So I started in Texas at just leasing
Oh,
in a leasing agent position. Did that for a few years, and we moved up here, me and my fiance, in August of 2018. And I
okay.
started as the community manager at Olympia Place. And kind of the biggest thing with that position was bringing somebody in that was going to provide a community feel to Olympia Place. So someone to kind of bring in the five colleges, partner with different groups and things on campus to really bring in the driving force of Olympia Place, which is that we are student housing and you have to be a student to live there.
But
Uh,
not just UMass housing, right?
what did you say?
Not just UMass housing. You were saying
Correct.
a place
Yeah.
you have to be a student, but you can go to any of the five colleges. So you
Yeah. So we've got
in the
students from
community.
Mount Holyoke, Smith, Hampshire, all of the five colleges, Amherst College. So it's not just UMass, and it's great because we are able to kind of extend outside of just one community, and we're able to really partner with all five. And I think that something that this area is so unique in is that you can take any course from one of the five colleges.
Isn't that awesome?
It's so cool. And like anytime I have friends come up from Texas, they're like, wait, so you guys have five colleges here that you can take anything from? And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's literally like you have five different, and all of these have been around for as long as they have. And there's just
Right.
so much opportunity for different things to try stuff. And you can get one thing at Hampshire that you can't get at UMass and vice
Right.
versa. And I think that that's so something that's just so unique about Amherst that I really want to drive home, especially with Olympia Place.
Yeah.
So it was the biggest thing was just like providing a community, and
Yeah.
they had that running machine. It was working. There was really no
Yeah.
issues, but we just wanted to like bring in esports. So doing things with different groups on campus. We've done stuff with the students of Caribbean ancestry. It's not just an apartment. And I
Right.
think that that's the biggest thing that you get with Amherst Innovative Living is it's a lifestyle and it's a community, and it's huge to like
Yeah.
be more than just a college student. That's not what it is. You're a
Right.
human in a time in your life where it's one of the biggest times of your life. So having
Yeah.
a place that you love is huge in that.
It really is. It really is. And I'm curious, and we could come back to this, but I'm curious, especially as you're building a student community, a strong student community, and really encouraging students who, like you say, are in this time of their life, right, where you're transitioning from the house that you grew up in or have been living in recently, possibly with a parental figure, a guardian of some kind. All of a sudden, you're out on your own,
Mm-hmm.
and it falls to you somewhat, especially in a challenging time like COVID, to be supporting the transition of a student into what their life is going to look like when they're kind of at the helm of it,
Right.
right? So,
Absolutely. And
how do you navigate that?
so I think in this industry, you have to be a special kind of crazy to to want to do this kind of work. It's something that I truly do love doing what I do. It is I love knowing that I helped somebody at the end of the day, and I think that in this time especially, you have to help people, and it's
Yeah,
everybody is not just doing okay. Like we're all putting a front on to do. And so if that means that we're figuring out a ledger with 3 roommates that this is their first time that they've all lived together and done a weird split of things and they're not really sure how prorated rent works and they're trying
right.
not to bother their parents. And so it's just a matter of taking the time to kind of sit down and spend the time and ask the questions and answer those questions that they have and that they need help with.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of one of the biggest things that I try to do in my day to day.
Yeah. And do you find that there are opportunities not only within the sort of community of students, but also within the sort of larger community of Amherst, as you and I have talked about? Amherst is a college town. It's probably like the most college town a town could be. Um, and yet it seems like there are sort of barriers sometimes, or at least a space between the student community and the residential community. Do you find in your position that students are coming to you and they are wanting to better connect with the community around them, either through volunteerism or understanding the place they live better? How does your
Yeah, and
position
I
kind of
think
support
that with COVID, it's really kind of forced people to look into those things
that?
because there's not a ton else to do. Like
Right.
I've cleaned every single drawer in my house. I've organized the fridge as many times as I can. Like it is as clean and organized as it gets. So what else is there to do? Let's go check out
Yeah.
downtown. Let's see what the historical cemetery has to offer. I mean, One East Pleasant itself, we've got the beautiful mural on the back that
Yeah.
a lot of people kind of don't realize is back there. Like, take a stroll, check it out. It's really cool. And I think that with the like student controversy that can happen sometimes in Amherst,
Mm.
that people just need to remember that while these are college students, it's just they're human at the end of the day. We're
Yeah.
everybody's a person, and everybody wants to experience life the same way as everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that like in the past, it could have just been passed off as, oh, you're just a student, it doesn't matter, you're going to destroy the place, it doesn't matter. And it's
Oh,
it's not what we're looking for, and it's not a good representation of the current world, I would say. I know
yeah.
at 19, I wasn't concerned about any sort of like social justice issues or climate change or anything like that. And it's honestly inspiring to see these students that matters to them. And it is important to
Yeah.
them. And taking the necessary precautions of, oh my gosh, I'm coming in the building, let me make sure my mask is on and all that stuff, because it truly does matter to them. And this is their life too, that they're not getting to experience a real
Right.
college
Oh,
experience.
right.
And so I think that where Olympia Place is definitely you do have to be a student to live there, as we've
Mhm.
said, but One East Pleasant, working from home, when I was doing it for 2 months, like it was a time, and it's just like, goodness. So it's just like, how do you make sure that like there's home and there's work and it's
Yeah.
still separated but still together, and like you're just spending so much time here, like it has to
Yeah.
be a place that you love and that you want to be in. And I think once you can solidify that, then you're kind of set, and you gotta have that good foundation of a good home life, I feel like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was actually usually when I do this interview show, I have a fake backdrop. I know,
It
shocking. Some people might not have known this
was
because we're
fake. Oh
not
my god.
real. But I was inspired today in kind of thinking about what we were going to be talking about to leave my home office background
Yeah.
feel, because I think what you're starting to go into is how your role interacts with creating an environment, a home environment where students can do all the things that they need to do if they're studying and they're working and they're keeping in touch with people at home and friends in other places and they're learning things and they're unwinding and they're all in one place. How do you create that environment or help students to create an environment that is both studious and comfortable and fun and safe? Like, that seems like such a tall order.
It definitely is, and I'm gonna go back to you got to be a special kind of crazy to like take that
I feel like that's going to be a theme
forward.
in our conversation.
But it is, and it truly, I think that you have a choice, and it's a matter of understanding your part in things,
Mm,
and that's kind of where I come from, and it's a matter of like I get to provide this to somebody. This is somebody's home. This is where the COVID quarantine birthday parties are happening with two other
right.
people because the trip to Colorado you're not getting to go on, and it's the place where like these Zoom birthdays are happening, and it's like I'm so sad I can't be there, and it's hard, and I think that
Yeah.
as community managers and directors of leasing and stuff like that, and even with my front desk, it's so important to me that we get to know residents past their apartment number because
Yeah.
that's what this is. They're residents, they're people. We want to know their stories and knowing that their mom's coming in town and where to take them for dinner and stuff like that. And I think that that kind of connection doesn't happen until you're talking to people. So it's a
Yeah.
matter of saying, hi, how's it going? How was class? Do you have any in-person classes today? Stuff like that. And just really taking the time to get to know more than just the student that is in front of you and
Yeah.
what's going on at home. How are things? How are you adjusting to the virtual learning? Because it's an
Right.
adjustment. And like I said, like it's one, there's a reason that there's in-person classes and there's a reason there's online classes because
Yeah.
it's hard and it's not meant for everybody to just be staring at a screen for 8 hours. And there are things that you
Definitely.
have to do in person. And I think that just the way that you have to go about, you're either looking to help or you're not. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
No, that makes total sense. And so we've kind of been dancing around COVID a little bit, but to go a little deeper, I mean, this is your second year with Amherst Innovative Living, but your fifth year in the industry. So what was different between like a normal move-in year and this year, or a normal, school year and this year?
So in a normal world, we get to move everybody in at the same place, and it doesn't take a lot of thinking. It's just a matter of getting all of the stuff together. Does everybody have keys? Do they have a move-in packet? Are they
Right.
good? Okay, perfect. And this year it was like, okay, we can't have anybody touching the same stuff. How do we make sure that we sanitize? How do we make sure that everybody's in masks? How many people can be there? Because I mean, it's also a lot of times these are people's first apartments off campus
Yeah.
or their first place that's on their own without roommates, especially at One East Pleasant. We've got so many studios and one bedrooms. This is kind of your first adult place, and
Right.
it's exciting. And so you want your parents there, and you want your family there to help you move and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things we just weren't able to do it. So in June, for our June move-in, we were able to have everybody at a different location based on floor. That way, we're able to limit how many people are going in at one place at a time. Um,
Right.
and everyone got their own pen, hand sanitizer. It was like, here's your one pen, don't lose it, don't mess it.
We
Like,
can't give you another one.
and like, there's no more, like, it was perfect. And so then in September, it was, okay, that was a great system. How do we make sure it's even better than what it was? Because
Yeah.
I think that that's the thing is we come up with solutions and then it's a matter of, is there a problem from the solution? Was there a way that we could do things better? And always being able to creatively problem solve. And I think
Yeah.
that COVID has definitely brought that out in everybody. And how do we
Yes.
creatively solve all of these problems that are coming up? And so we were able to do a move-in day that was outside, and we had move-in tents, and it was great because we were still able to see everybody and have the balloons, and it wasn't so scary because we knew what was to be expected. And
Right.
there was a little bit more of understanding of what was going on, and able to sanitize between each person was also a huge part of it.
Oh
So that
my
was great.
gosh. That's so huge.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a minute because I see people watching. So I'll do my usual 15-minute encouragement. Please feel free to put questions up here for Jared. Anyone who's watching in the Amherst, Northampton area, I know you have questions about student life. Don't even pretend that you don't. And if you're not sure how, if you're on Facebook and you're in the comments, that's where you put a question. So you put a question in just like it's a comment. I will see it and I will pass it to Jared. So please feel free. Don't be shy. So I think this thing about kind of learning as you go. I know that one of the anxieties that was communicated to me by a lot of community members, because my job also touches students living in the Amherst area, especially in the North Amherst area. One of the big anxieties was a feeling that, oh, students don't take this seriously. They're too young to understand that COVID is a real thing. They're not going to be careful. They're not going to. What has your experience been, understanding that all people are different, all students are different? There is no, every student's this, every student's that. But what is your overall perception of how students feel and are taking on the responsibility of what's happening with this pandemic?
Yeah, and I think that when it all first happened, that was everybody's concern. They weren't going to take it
Mhm.
seriously. They don't care. And I've been extremely pleasantly surprised by it.
Really?
Because it is a fear and it's an anxiety, and it's like, oh God, and did they know how serious this is? And day in and day out, it's making sure, hey, make sure your mask is on, stuff like that. But really, honestly, at Olympia Place, we don't really have to worry about it. And these kids,
Really?
they're coming in, they're putting their masks on. If they don't have one on, they're like apologizing and, oh, let me put it on real quick. And because they
Yeah.
understand the importance of it. And I think that having somebody at that front desk is a huge part of it, and knowing
Yeah.
that there is a face of the community here. And if you have a question, you can have it answered. But they're also going to be there to make sure that we're doing everything we can as a community to get past this. And that starts with every person, and we all have to do it. So
Right.
it's a matter of just saying, hey, can you put that on for me real quick? And they are apologetic if they don't have it. But
Yeah.
for the most part, everybody's been taking it really seriously. And in part with that, everybody's at home, like
Yeah.
so much more than what we've been used to. And it's actually really interesting. And we've started taking a traffic count because it has been trying to see, are these people like coming in and out? Is it like normal? And numbers are really down. Everybody's staying home. And so it really is kind of not surprising, because obviously where are you going to study and do all of these things? But
Right.
um, making sure that we've got somebody there if there is any issues, and making
Yeah.
sure that if there is somebody that is deciding to throw a party, it's taken care of. We've got someone there till 2 a.m. You come down to the desk, you let us know, it's done. If
Yeah.
you happen to not get it first, because we're doing rounds every hour to make sure that there isn't anything going on, because it
Yeah.
is, and you have a little bit of a responsibility as a housing provider, not even just to students, but at Kendrick Place in One East Pleasant, where you don't have to be a student to live there. There's still
Right.
a responsibility there, and there's still an expectation of, when you're not in your apartment, you're in a mask, and that's
Yeah.
clear, and there's no questions about it. A facial covering of some sorts,
Yeah.
and just having those conversations with the people, I think is huge. So
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And I was really struck, you mentioned it a second ago, but we talked about it a little more before we hopped on. Um, I was really struck by how much you have experienced students being more um, into social justice. Sounds so trite, but aware of the state of the world, things that impact not only themselves but also fellow students, other people in their community. being outspoken, volunteering, protesting, really, seeing in young people a shift from what we've seen before. And one thing that you said that I'm just going to put you on the spot and ask you to talk about, because I think about it a lot too, is almost what you see as the evolution of young people and their involvement in their own lives and community, and what that has done to an environment like UMass, which has a reputation going many years back for partying and whatever else. And it really feels like that has changed. I feel like it has changed. I've talked to other community members who feel that way. And you said you definitely feel that way in being struck by the sort of social justice warrior student persona that you're seeing more and more of.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because I'm not from here, I'm from Texas. So I
Right.
know about the party schools. I know where those are,
I love that.
and exactly, and tailgating, and they're starting at 8 a.m. to go till 8 p.m. And UMass is not that. It's not what it used to be. It's no longer UMass. And I think that
Yeah.
there's a bit of a kind of not a grudge holder mentality with it, but you have to understand that people are going to grow, they're going to change, things are going to, the world is in a completely different state than where it was last year. And I think
Yeah.
that these students and people are taking note of that, and they understand that they are a part of it. And
Yeah.
I don't know, like at 18, I wasn't going to rallies, I wasn't volunteering for things, and just seeing the staff members that I have and the residents that we have, and seeing that it's important to them, not just that
Yeah.
it's important, but they're taking action with it, and they're going to those things. And I think it's huge. And it's honestly inspiring to see it, because it's
Mm.
exciting and it's great. And it's like, cool, we're going to get out of this college students are bad mentality, because it
Yeah.
really is the life force of Amherst. And I think that the sooner we embrace that, the better it's going to be for everybody.
Yeah. Are there ways that you and your team have thought about kind of creating more space? I should preface this by saying this is something I think about a lot in my job of placemaking in North Amherst, because it does feel like there are sort of different bubbles of the community that create this Venn diagram of the Mill District, and how a lot of my work, though it got derailed by COVID, a lot of my work around event planning was me thinking about different ways to bring those disparate parts of the community together to experience one another. So, it might be as simple as having a student band play at a farmer's market just so people can see that. Or it might be, you know, even more intense than that, where we have a student come and give a talk about research that they're doing, so that the community can have a window into those parts. Because if you don't work at the university or one of the colleges, you might not have occasion to go on campus or hear someone's dissertation, or go and check out a student art show that's all about Black Lives Matter or what have you.
Right.
And be able to have that interpersonal connection with the serious side of students. And so you might only interact with students because the house 2 doors down from you has parties every weekend. That might be your only experience. So
Exactly.
how do you and your team, both your professional staff and your student staff, do you talk about opportunities and ways to create more of those inroads between these different parts of the community in Amherst?
Yeah, and I think it's something that we could definitely develop and
Mm,
improve on. So
yeah.
uh, the community assistants at Olympia Place are students only. We only hire students for that
Oh,
position.
wow.
It just makes sense. It's a student building. They know what's going on campus. If there's any questions, anything like that, they know the bus routes, like
Right.
it's stuff like that. And then at One East Pleasant, we have, it's not a requirement to be a student at
Right.
that desk necessarily, but we do have one Mount Holyoke student and a UMass student as well. And so it's a matter of, how do we take what you guys are a part of in these communities and bring it to Amherst Innovative Living?
Yeah.
Kind of remind people that college students aren't just partying. Like,
Right.
one of my front desk employees, Sophia, she's an amazing artist and is at Mount Holyoke College, and getting to see her art, and we're trying to figure out a way to get her into our co-working space and seeing, can we put students here, and it's really cool. And unfortunately with COVID, everything's been delayed and pushed off and probably canceled.
Right.
Getting to see, like, there was a TEDx Amherst event at Amherst Works, and getting to see these college students run it, every single thing to do with the event, and then they're also pitching their ideas, and it's just like, it's so cool to see, like, this isn't just something that you're just putting together because you have a paper due. This is something you care about and you want to take off the ground and like get moving. And I think that as community members and as somebody who houses a decent amount of people, letting them know that those opportunities are there, like the block party when that happens, and and making sure we have a tent at the block party in front, letting them know, yes, this is when East Pleasant, this is what we have to offer, and yes, get some candy, like, and it's just showing face and just being a part of it, because we are in the downtown community, and it's important to Alex and myself. Yesterday we volunteered at the charity golf tournament, or on Monday. And that was such a good time, and it was really fun, and getting to see other community members that we wouldn't necessarily see. I'm not on the golf course very often. So,
no, me either.
Getting to experience that was really cool, and it was a kind of a different approach to things. I mean, it's one thing to go to a networking event and talk to people, and it's one thing to be on a golf course shooting off an air cannon. A little bit of a different scenario, but it was a really good time, and it's just a matter of being a part of the community and involving ourselves in that. Today, me and 4 other staff members were getting involved with the Amherst Survival Center. We're going to be delivering groceries to some senior apartments, and I'm super excited about it because it's our first time that we're able to like do something in person as a staff and volunteer. And I want to do it more than just having something for the residents, because we're community members, and these kids live at the properties, and it's a matter of like, you have to help out your community, and this is how we can do that. So, and I think that everybody should try and see that those are opportunities that they can do. In October and November, we'll be partnering with the Survival Center to take donations for personal goods and dry goods and things like that, and running something at the properties while still offering the option for residents to volunteer and do things with their own time.
Yeah, that's so fantastic to hear. The Survival Center is in the Mill District, and so we've done a lot of volunteering with them, and then also Lev and Jan, who's a member of the board, have both been on this little program, and I learned so much. So that's fantastic that you're creating that opportunity and creating, it sounds like, some different levels that students can get involved at. So they could go so far as to volunteer, like those who are going with you today, but then you were also saying that you're going to have food drive collection in the buildings, so that people, that might be the way that they interact with it. They put some food in there.
And I think that there's different levels of being involved. There's the super easy stuff where you're picking up an extra box of rice to put in the donation bin at the grocery store. It's really not that hard. It's $2. We've all got it. Let's do it. And there's you can actually sign up and be a part of this and do it with us, or you can do it yourself. And these are some other ways that you can use your time. And I think that you have to present the information to people to be able to let them make that decision to, I'm going to take my time, and instead of spending the weekend on the couch watching Netflix like I've done the last 6 months.
Judgment.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go volunteer my time, and it's giving back to the community, as I think something that at Amherst Innovative Living, and my boss, Alex, the Director of Property Management, whose degree is in that type of work, is it is a huge mission statement for us to give back and know that like we are a part of this community in the way that like we provide housing to people, and we want to provide the best experience with their housing. But it's also knowing that we're lucky to have this many people, and we should give back that in any way that we can.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's so, it's just amazing. And it again just brings up for me in my mind so many roles that y'all are playing in these students' lives. I mean, you're really just, and it brings up an interesting thing for me, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit
All right,
and
let's do it.
ask you, but it brings up something for me that has sort of repeatedly come up as COVID has become more and more of a crisis, as we went through the summer of not knowing if students were going to come back to all the schools, if they weren't, which schools were allowing them on campus, which ones weren't. Something that came up over and over again is this question of what role the landlord or the person who is providing that housing or overseeing that housing, like you and Alex are, much more involved than obviously someone who maybe is renting a house and is not as present there, is not at the front desk until 2 a.m. making sure that things
Yeah,
are
no,
allowed,
that's
right?
definitely not happening at a house.
you know how do you, I'll just make it a personal question, how do you personally navigate the sort of spectrum of friendship and support to full on responsibility for people's health, in this case, potentially health surrounding a virus that could land someone in the hospital or worse? That's a huge spectrum where, on the one hand, you want to know everyone's name and help them out. On the other end of the spectrum, you are a parental figure sometimes in like this behavior is not okay way. How do you do that, Jared?
It is definitely a tightrope that we walk on, for sure. I would say, because it is, and it really, this industry is very much that. It is something that I'm the director of leasing, and my offer letter says this much of what my job is, but I do whatever is in between this box because it's what it takes, and I
It's
think
like
that
the Star Wars intro where it just keeps going and
and
just
going and going and going, and I'm happy to do it. That's the thing. You have to know that there is a level of, you're gonna have people that have never used a plunger before and they don't know how to use it and they don't know how their dishwasher works, and you're gonna have to teach them how to do that because this
I
is
don't know how my dishwasher works.
absolutely, it's one of those like, okay, and so like just taking and remembering that everybody doesn't have the same experience as you.
Yes.
So if you can keep that in mind when helping people and talking to people, like, I may know how all this stuff works, but I've been doing this for 5 years. It makes
Right.
sense that I would know how a prorated lease works and your roommate doesn't, and there's 3 questions about September's rent and we don't know why. And so it's a matter of taking the time to just go through it with them to make sure that they actually understand it and doing it in a way that they works for them. And something that comes to mind is I had 3 residents of mine that are living in a 2-bedroom, and they're trying to figure out how they're splitting the rent and who's paid what and how
Right.
this person needs to pay and this person paid $500 over here. And so they're trying to like navigate that. And I sit down with them. I'm like, great, we're looking at it on the computer, looking at their ledger, kind of going over everything. And I just look at them and we're all in masks. And so all you can see is just this like puzzled look from like here. And I'm like, that wasn't good enough, is it? And I'm like, let me write it out. Like, great, this is what you've paid, this is what you've paid, and this is what you've paid. And it's just a matter of like taking the time to do it and make sure that they understand it. And I
Yeah.
think that hand holding can take some time, but at the end of the day, what else are we here for? I'm here
Yeah.
to provide a apartment to you, but I need to provide that apartment to the best ability that I absolutely can. And that
Mm-hmm.
means that you understand what rent is and when it's due and how it works and why the last month works like this. Um, and it's all of that. And then it's also shutting down a party because we got a noise complaint at 3 a.m. after a 12-hour workday. And that was
It happens, right? We're not here to say
that's the
don't
thing.
party.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, life happens. So how you handle what's thrown at you is just the biggest thing. And
Mm.
it's, hey, this cannot happen ever again. This is how it works. This is what your lease says. I'm happy to be your friend about it. And I'm going to say hi to you every day after I shut down the party because
Yes.
it doesn't matter to me. And I know that if I tell you how this works, you're going to listen. And that's the thing. It's just a matter of giving the people the opportunity to correct what they've done. And it's fine. Like, it happens, we took care of it, make sure it doesn't happen again. So it is definitely a fine line of and tightrope walking sometimes. And I definitely enjoy the resident events and sitting down and talking to people way more than I do shut down parties. But the thing is it honestly, it's not something that I'm doing every Friday night. The residents that are with us, they're good people. They're not looking to be the cause of a issue of somebody's health. So, and that goes back to them taking it seriously. I was extremely concerned that I was going to be shutting down parties every Friday and every Saturday. And it really has not happened. And it's been a very good blessing. And I'm very, very happy with it.
Yes. Oh, that's so good to hear. And I really appreciate you going into all of that, because I can just hear how seriously you take it. And when you say that life happens, it sounded almost like that's a motto for you, like something you go back to, like, this is what I'm here for. Life happens. And
it does. And I think that this industry is so specific in the way, and me and my coworker constantly joke, like, is this what we signed up for? Like, is this and it is, like, it is one of those things. This is where people live. This is their life. Like, the flood that happens at 3 a.m. because we forgot, like, you didn't turn off the sink, like, that happens. And it's just like how you handle them going forward and what you can do to just provide the best experience. Because you can't fault somebody for one thing and then hold it against them for the rest of their time with you, because it's just not, that's not life. Like, you've got to, there's movement, there's like ebb and flow and stuff like that. So and growth is a huge thing. And you have to give people the benefit of the doubt and talk to them. And that's all that people want to do. They want to be heard. They want to know that if they do try to talk to someone, that their issues are going to be taken care of. And as somebody that provides housing, there's a responsibility to provide that.
Right.
Yeah. And I take it very seriously. And I know that this is where the quarantine birthday parties are happening. And I know that this is where the Zoom Netflix showings are happening, because you can't hang out with your friends anymore. So it needs to be a place that you love, and is so big to me. And like, with our resident events and everything, even still, it's been kind of challenging to figure out what's the best way to get everybody to show up to this while still being socially distanced, while it's also something that people want to do. Like, because it's one thing to do a Facebook Live workout at 10 a.m, but how many people are actually going to go to that and actually do it? So like, let's do tie-dye instead. And we're going to do tie-dye outside, and we're going to start in the morning and do breakfast deliveries, like go door to door and pass out donuts. And it's changing the way that like we do things while still doing the things that we like love to do. Resident events is one of my favorite parts of this industry, and so great, like getting to see people and talk to people again. And we had our first one last Saturday, and we did tie-dye outside, and it was perfect because you've got everybody in gloves where only like you're putting something down and that's it, and you take it and you leave, and it was perfect. And everybody was just so thankful and happy to be able to do something as a community together like we had done before. And it was just a little different. Everyone's in masks and we've got on that. And but it's one of those things that we probably would have never done a tie-dye event before this. So we're getting to experience something new that like we would have done previously. So it was cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So a question is coming through from Virginia, who's asking, and I know the answer to this, but I'm going to turn it into a longer question that I have too, because she is saying, is his job directly connected to UMass, which it's not. You don't work for UMass. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
But that is an interesting question, because especially with Olympia Place, which you have to be a student, but you can be a student at any of the 5 colleges, and I would assume any college in the area.
So it is 5 colleges. So
5 colleges.
So one of the 5 colleges, yeah.
So even though you are not employed by UMass or one of the other colleges, you are interacting with those schools from varying degrees, right? Not only helping students with the day-to-day, but should there be an emergency or something, how do you interface? Who are you interfacing with at the schools if you need to?
So with UMass, they've got an off-campus division.
Right.
Sally works there, and she's fantastic and honestly, a great resource as somebody that we don't have any connection to UMass. And at our other two communities, one East Pleasant and Kendrick Place, you don't have to be a student to live there. At all. And there's nothing that really ties them together other than just literal location.
Right.
So I would say that while I'm not employed by UMass, it is part of my job to be involved with UMass and like have those connections, have those relationships, and it's doing the off-campus housing fairs and stuff like that, which we did our first virtual one. I think it was in June or July, and it was very different than what we were used to, which is where we're normally in the campus center. We're passing out promo, we're talking to people about apartments, and this was on Zoom, one at a time, one-on-one, and it was nice because you're able to, without all of the distraction of people just like trying to quickly get information in between classes, you're able to like sit down and talk to people. So it was nice to be involved in that way on a one-on-one level, but it's also partnering with groups and doing stuff with, like I've said, with the UMass esports, the Students of Caribbean Ancestry, and the Card Game Club, providing a space. We had last year, when the Card Game Club was able to meet, they were doing tournaments monthly at Olympia Place, and we provided the sponsorship we sponsored the winning, I think the first 3 people that won. I don't really understand the Card Game Club part of it, and I've tried to talk to the presidents about it and try and get them to explain it a little bit more to me, but it's a little over my head.
You're not in it.
I'm like, just let me know what to send and where. And so it's about providing a relationship and having that connection with the 5 colleges without necessarily being involved with the 5 colleges.
Right. That makes total sense. So I know that we have a hard stop at 11:45, which is coming up, and I have one more question, but I'll just put it out there to anyone watching. If you have another question, ask it soon, because we do have to let Jerry get back to his super busy day. I'm gonna lose it. The last question that I had, and I always want to be really mindful of asking this question carefully with the understanding and the caveat that COVID has been a really challenging time for some people. It has been a devastating time. And all of that being understood, there are some things, as with any bad situation, challenging situation, there are things that come out of it that we want to hold on to or that we didn't realize before. And I feel like you're almost going into it with, the tie-dye event, which I would dare say that you're even a placemaker now. And we could talk more about that.
Okay.
But are there things that you and Alex look around and you say, whoa, I want this to become part of our culture, or, we're going to hold on to this because it was an accident that it happened that way, but now it has given something to our community and to what we're trying to build here. Are there things that you're like, I'm going to put this in my pocket and I'm going to keep it?
Yeah, I would say that just more of the outside things I've really come to enjoy. Even like with the downtown dining, like having that outside and those kinds of things. I love that. And I really wish that we could do that every single summer. Like it's something that I think that really, you're walking through downtown already. Let's enjoy the outside. We're here. Up here, we don't get a beautiful 70-degree weather all the time. So let's definitely take advantage of it when we can. I know I've spent more time outside than I ever have. I would say just I hope that people continue to take personal growth and take those. I feel like a lot of people in this time have really stopped putting up with BS and stopped putting up with the things that don't matter that much to them. And I would love to continue that and having the understanding that like whatever's going on behind the person, there's stuff going on, and it may not
Yeah.
be right up front and you might not be able to see it, but everybody's got something going on. And I think that there's been a lot of understanding of that, and I would love to continue to see that continue.
Yes. Yes. Amen to that. Jared, I can't really think of a better note to end on. It has been such a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate you being very candid about things.
Yeah.
Anyone who works in Amherst knows that there's a tightrope to walk around any student conversation. And I appreciate you coming on today. This is great.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I really, really enjoyed it, and it was great to talk to you.
You too. And I'm going to follow up about placemaking because we're going to go deeper with that too.
I love it. Let's do it. I'm so down.
Have a great rest of your day and a great time volunteering
Bye.
at the Bible Center. Thank
Yes, I'm so
you.
excited. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.